Hey, everybody, welcome to So Many Sequels, your book club for movies. I'm Josh,
Garrett.
And I'm David.
and we've got another special episode, kind of, coming up today, a little different than usual. We're still in the aftermath of the Oscars, where Sinners and One Battle After Another took home a ton of great awards. So we're going to talk about both of those movies today. One Battle After Another, of course, won Best Picture, Best Director, and so on. Few others, but I'm not going to list them all. And Sinners took home Best Original Screenplay, Best Score. Lots of awards for them as well. Michael B. Jordan won Best Actor. And we've been talking about these movies for a long time. We kind of discussed how we wanted to do it, and we said, throughout, I feel like we've talked about both of these movies a lot across like 7 random episodes, but we've never really sat down and talked about them. So why not
What
do that
better
today?
time than to talk about them after they won their Oscars for the themes that we were working on this month?
Yes.
Exactly. We were talking about best writing all month long. Both of these won their categories: best adapted for One Battle After Another, best original for Sinners. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And they were both also nominated for Best Picture, along with Begonia, F1, Frankenstein, Hamnet, Marty Supreme, The Secret Agent, Sentimental Value, and Train Dreams. Yeah. Sinners, One Battle After Another. I'm excited.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So Sinners came out first, really early into last year. I think we all saw it in theaters when it came out, didn't we? Did we all see it in theaters?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it was like January, February, very early.
You guys remember? Do you remember thinking at the time like, "Oh, this is the Best Picture nominee"?
Yes.
Oh, I mean, I know,
I
but
wonder.
Oh,
not because it wasn't great. I mean, I would walked out of it just like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. But like, I just don't feel like this is the kind of movie that normally gets nominated for Best Picture.
Fair.
So I was just kind of that was something that like I feel like we all willed into happening because we all loved it so much. But like I could have easily seen a world where they were like, no, it's a genre
Too
horror movie.
horror,
We're
too
not gonna
vampire-y, yeah.
we're not gonna roll with that. So I was so at the time, no, but I mean I do remember coming out of it and just being like blown away.
Yeah. You're muted, Garrett. Yeah.
was not overly surprised because of Ryan Coogler's track record, Michael B. Jordan's track record. And that's not a knock or anything to say that they, automatically get they automatically get a thing because they're good.
Right.
But this just felt like it was original, which we all talk about how original movies aren't getting any kind of audience. There's no traction. There's not original stories that people want. And this one was. I mean, you run through all of those pictures that it was nominated for Best Picture. Some of them are original. We go through the list of nominees that Sinners was up against in the Best Original Screenplay category. And again, no disrespect to these, but Blue Moon, It Was Just an Accident, Marty Supreme, and Sentimental Value. I mean, they could not bring in the same kind of attention that Sinners did. Marty Supreme did, but then it kind of crashed and burned. Sinners never petered out or anything. It just continued and continues.
Yeah, no, Sinners is a rare thing anymore, which is that not just as an original idea, but they gave it a big budget. They gave it like $90 million to $100 million, and outside of Christopher Nolan and a handful of other directors, maybe they're not just handing out $100 million budgets
For original
for original properties
least.
anymore. So, and if they are, they're thinking this had better, this needs to do well enough that it's going to, launch a franchise. So, it is kind of, it was a real breath of fresh air. I remember hearing about it and kind of learning about it in like the years prior. I had heard that Ryan Coogler was working on like a vampire movie. That's all I said at the time. Then I remember hearing separately that he was working on like a period piece, but they weren't connecting them to like whoever was that was doing the report, it didn't connect that they were the same project at the time. So when they turned out to be the same project, I was like, oh, period vampire piece, even cooler. Let's do it. So it came out. I just double checked it. It actually came out April 18th of 2025.
Yeah,
So it was
almost a year away.
a little
It's a year
deeper
away.
into the year than I remember it being. But let's kind of we don't have to go scene by scene, but I just want to get into the early stages of it because the movie opens with this monologue that I believe is read by the Annie character. Um, yes, and we get this premise that there are music has this amazing power. Music kind of brings cultures together and stretches across cultures, and there are some who the music is so powerful in that when they sing, they can bring together not just the people in the present, but they can bring people from the past and the future together in this communal, uh, uh, you know, dreamscape. And the setup of that, but then there's also evil that preys on that. Like so they get you a good setup. It really does, kind of. I would have to watch some of his other movies again, but it does kind of bring to mind too, like the sensibilities that Ryan Coogler got out of working on something like Black Panther, which also opens with a little narration bit, some exposition at the beginning of the history of, vibranium and the Black Panther, right? That kind of sensibility of like setting your world and then just rolling into it, and establishing your characters. I think it really captures people's imagination right away.
Well, I think that's good. I mean, again, that's such a strength of the writing because you'd mentioned that the premise was Ryan Coogler vampire, right?
Hmm.
Automatically, people think that's going to be horror, and this movie disarms you a little bit because it
So
takes
much more than that.
it's so much more, but it takes
Yeah.
so much longer to get to the thing that you thought you were going to get to, right? David, I remember in one of the random episodes that we had, you had mentioned that for you, you were kind of waiting for the vampires to show up at one point in time. And it was that last line at the end of the movie that made you realize it was during the day. So
Mhm.
that's why there were no vampires. And that because it starts in the day, you get to travel with them in this slice of life kind of a movie with characters and music. And it's just everyone is so well thought out. The relationships are thought out. And so you get wrapped up into who they are, not and then you forget about the vampires. And then all of a sudden the sun goes down, and then it's like, holy crap, vampires. And like the premise of who the vampires are, what they represent, it is such a well done, portrayal at cultural differences and things like that, where you can get the messaging across, be a good horror movie and be a deep movie, much like Get Out was successful at doing.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, Josh, I don't want to cut the line, but I do want to mention so that last sequence, and it's a post credit scene more or less. It's a mid sort of happens within the credits, but another sort of MCU sensibility, I suppose. But there is a yes, I would remember thinking, man, this has gotten really deep in before we're getting any real sense of vampires. Because that's sort of, I mean, even in what marketing there was for the movie, that's an aspect of it. And I was really, I mean, the thing is, I'm enjoying what I'm getting because, like, I am, despite everything about my appearance, I am kind of a country boy. I do love old blues and bluegrass and all that
Yeah,
stuff, and I'm
yeah.
kind of an old man in a lot of ways like that. So I was loving this sort of historical component and them talking about blues music and the guitar and the kid who plays Sammy is just amazing and that's like his debut role.
Yeah.
Um, so I was like really getting invested. And then they do kind of tease it at the beginning when he like walks in the church and he's all bloody and stuff. And I'm like, where does but it's specifically these two lines. One where he says, where old Sammy says, "There's not a night I don't wake up screaming, thinking about that night. But before the sun went down, I think that was the best day of my life." And it occurred to me that like I had this little like maybe quibble, like, oh, maybe this is a 4.5 star movie because it just took too long for the action to kick in. But I was like, oh no, they had to show us that it was the best day of his life.
Yeah.
And when smoke or excuse me, is it Stack or Smoke at the end? Stack, isn't it? At the end when he says, yeah, when he says that, yeah, it was the best day of my life too. It was the last day I saw the sun, last day I saw my brother, and for a few hours we were free. And they show us a few more sequences that weren't shown at the beginning, but like for a few hours they felt like they truly had no limits on their life. And if they had shortened it, if the vampires were there within the first hour, the first 40 minutes, we wouldn't have gotten to see that was like that they felt, how they, we wouldn't feel it the same way.
And that to me, I feel like is the difference between it being categorized as a horror movie versus it being a movie with horror elements, right? Like it can be a horror movie. Yeah, there are elements that are scary, but this is deeper. And that has become the avenue to be able to tell these stories. It seems like so many people are putting their um, lived or noted trauma into these horror movies to convey the pain that has been there for a long time. And it's not doing it to jump scare you,
Hmm.
it's doing it to hopefully open your eyes to something and give you a deeper message in a horrific kind of setting. And I just really appreciate the filmmakers that have been able to take that and use it to better the genre, so much so that a movie like Sinners can be nominated with as Best Picture and Best Writing and all of that taken seriously without it just being poo-pooed as a horror movie.
Hmm.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think what I appreciate about the writing the most, without beating a dead horse about it or anything, is the way that it's able to blend all these genres together and these different aesthetics. This whole Southern Gothic mixed with um um vampires mixed with um a musical in a lot of like that
Yeah,
there's at least one musical sequence that's like flat out a musical, I think you could
yeah.
say,
Well, and
right?
I believe I could be mistaken now, but the cinematographer who won, I believe that they have a background as a music video cinematographer because of that scene, knowing how to structure the choreography, weaving in and out of that one shot. I mean, that alone was incredible to be able to collaborate and pull that off. So I think it's fair to call it inspired by it, at the very least.
No, and there's an aspect of this we haven't touched on, but it's easy to look at Sinners and think of it as being purely a study on, say, African American culture and history at that point in time. But Coogler, to his credit, studies in and he brings in Asian American experiences in the Mississippi Delta at that time. And he brings in an Irish, a really well studied sense of Irish history to this point. And you have whether, Sammy's scene where he sings, one obviously, yes, amazingly shot. It was at that moment I'm watching the movie, I'm like, oh, this is something really special. Like it was something very different. But there's when Remick sings uh Mary Road to Dublin, Christopher Nolan's called it one of the best musical inversions since Singing in the Rain in Clockwork Orange, because here you
Mm,
have this song that is about staying safe and watching yourself and being kind of being free on the way to Dublin, but like here's this character who's singing it even though he wants to control and he wants to bring it people in and he wants to take, I don't know, so there's it's a really smartly written thing, and it's I can't imagine the kind of time and research and care that went into every aspect of it. It's the kind of movie like story I would have always liked to have written. I don't know why I love this like Dust Bowl era, even though it was kind of a hard time for America. It just seems like people were really struggling, and any
And
amount
I
of
love that.
I love it. Like the opening 20 minutes of Forrest Gump. I love that part. Um, the part where they were bullying him. Um, no, I don't know. There's just something about like people were really struggling and yet they were overcoming some serious adversity at various points. So there is an allure there. Um,
Well,
Yeah.
and again, they're interweaved through all of this is Smoke and Stack. They went up to Chicago, where the free North, and everybody in the South was like, "Oh, why are you back here?" And they're like, "Man, it's no different." And
Mhm.
it's those kinds of things that really just make this movie so well rounded. Like, it's no different. I'm going to come back here where I know and be in control of the things that I can be with my people. That just the layers to the
Yeah.
storytelling.
What
It's just deep.
It's deep. I don't even want to lose that, like, it's got some fun action, it's got some scary moments, but it's also got a lot of humor. It's very funny. It's got a real sense of style. It's got a deep heart as well. Plenty of quotable lines. Uh that drool scene freaked me out, though, I gotta admit. That was gross.
Yeah. It's got every range of I feel like this is a movie where you'll feel everything. It's hard to put it in a style of genre. You can umbrella it into a horror movie if you want, but you're right. It's a musical. It has got humor. It has got a real emotional depth and connection between characters who haven't seen each other in a long time. Uh, rough relate. Like, it's got literally just about everything, including vampires that don't sparkle.
No, they just got glowing red eyes, and I love the glowing red eyes.
That is an important distinction. Yeah, they
And
do not sparkle. They have scary glowing
and they
eyes.
and they play songs that sound like they come off the "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" soundtrack, and I love that too.
See, they do. That's how they would lure you. They would lure you so easily, David.
Like,
You'd
you
be
wanna
a
learn how to
vampire. You might volunteer to be a vampire.
you wanna be able to play banjo no matter what? Oh, yeah.
Hey, why
I don't
not?
have to learn how to play banjo, I'll just know? Great, let's
Can't
do
I
it.
just be one of the non-racist
Ding, ding, ding,
white vampires?
ding, ding. Well, that's an interesting aspect of it too, is that Remick as a character, as a vampire, I don't think he cares so much about race. I mean, that's a big
That's
part of
fair.
his plea to them, or his plea to emotion, is like, hey, with me, everybody's equal. Now, granted, we were all equal because I have total control over everyone, but everyone, there's no black and white as far as vampires are concerned. They just are. And he's actually, he warns them like, hey, the clan's coming for you guys. Like, I took over this guy, and now I know what he knows, and the clan was going to come kill you guys in the morning. Um, so, like, it's a very interesting, and there's other, there's a lot of deeper themes of, like, cultural vampirism and things like that I'm not quite educated enough to speak on, but there's a lot of more depth that people can find in this movie than if they want.
Yep, totally. Well, I think that is Sinners in a nutshell from us here at the show. You should go
Yeah,
watch it.
we don't have a So Many Sequels Hall of Fame, but we would put it in there.
I think it's well. You know what we could do? We could make a letterbox list called "So Many Sequels Hall of Fame."
Oh,
There you go.
And when we would never make, we should start doing our own awards show at the end of the year. The
I love
sequels or
this.
something.
The sequels.
We can work
the
on
se-
this at the next
the sequ-
retreat.
I do kind of like this idea as a counter Oscars.
Yes.
We can cut down the categories. Maybe we can add a couple categories that should exist that don't.
Yes.
I like this. We'll workshop this.
Yes. We'll put it. Hang on, because Josh has a tendency to forget things. So
I
better
will
write
forget
it
it
down.
the second we stop recording. So you
Producer,
should.
make a note.
Josh's memory is only active while we record.
Yeah, I got that Dory thing. Short-term memory loss.
The clip at 1930.
Love it. Perfect. Let's shift gears and talk about our other movie of the week, which is One Battle After Another, the Best Picture winner of the year, Best Original Screenplay or Best Adapted Screenplay winner as well. And you know, another Warner Brothers film, maybe
The last one ever.
the last Warner Brothers film to get Best Picture, if there's still Warner Brothers next
Well,
year.
there'll be
I don't
Warner
know.
Brothers Studios or something.
That's the thing. We have no idea what to expect. If they will just be, I honestly expect the worst outcome, which is like they renamed the company Paramount plus Warner Brothers Discovery.
Equals money.
Yeah, like it'll be a big long name and both logos will be meshed together. It'll be like the WB shield on the mountain of Paramount.
And then they're going to go back and just call it HBO Max after all of that.
I swear to They are. They are going to go back. Anyway, you
There's
can
probably
watch
two.
both of today's movies on HBO Max while it still is that. So go do that. Yeah, one battle after another. This one, I think, I don't know. I certainly was not surprised that this was a contender for Best Picture. It's Paul Thomas Anderson. He won his first Oscars ever this year, but he is a mainstay in the nominations. So, like, it was not surprising for that to happen. But I do think it's important to note after making so many movies and being a presence for so long, he did finally win um, some Oscars this year for one battle after another. He personally took home Best Director and Best Adapted Screenplay. I don't know how Best Picture works. I think a lot of people get those awards.
Oh yeah, technically those go to the producers,
Yeah,
the best pictures, but
yeah.
I think they end up giving a trophy to most of the cast and crew.
Um, what did we think of that? What did you think of One Battle After Another when you saw it, Garrett? Because I think you watched it the most recently of the group.
Yeah, so I watched it. I had to watch it in chunks, and
Right.
so that kind of impacted the watchability of it. But as much as I was excited to watch this, I didn't really know what it was about exactly. I knew it was about revolutionaries and kind of their story, but I didn't really know what it was based on or anything like that. So within the first 10 minutes, I was like, what am I watching? Because none of that with Sean Penn and how they introduce his character was something that I was expecting. So from that moment on, I was pretty hooked as to like, what is this movie and what are they gonna do? Um, I found again, the characters were pretty well thought out. Leonardo DiCaprio's character certainly stands out to me as the most memorable, with the most lines and the most humor and the most kind of dynamic situation going on. Um, and then his daughter, Chase Infinity, I don't remember her name in the movie. Uh, Second to that, also had a lot of depth, a lot of character. And then everybody else kind of, I felt like, did their parts really well, but it was just meant for those two. Um, I thought this category, looking at who it's up against, had a lot more stiff competition, to be honest with you, even though it felt like kind of a runaway with it. Begonia, Train Dreams, Frankenstein, and Hamnet. Um,
Yeah,
so I'm
that
not
is
surprised
stacked.
at it won, but Paul Thomas Anderson, I'm not overly familiar with a ton of his work either, but this is the most enjoyable movie I feel like I've seen of his.
Yeah, I might have to agree. I mean, I have not seen all of his movies, but of the ones I've seen, I probably enjoyed this one the most. I was trying to see if I could see real quick. He's done quite a few. I mean, okay, yeah. This okay, yeah. He last did Licorice Pizza. Before that was Phantom Thread, Inherent Vice, The Master, There Will Be Blood, Punch Drunk Love, Magnolia, Boogie Nights, and Hard Eight. So his first movie was '96. And I have not seen all those, but there's some big heavy hitters in that list.
Definitely. David, you were the one who was a little less sold on this one. What's your
True,
thoughts and
true.
feelings?
Well, I mean, it's a good movie. I mean, I for the most part really enjoyed myself. I mean, I think that the movie is so expansive in what it's in, like both. It takes place over a long period of time. It takes place over a large space of the country. It's all across the place. It is something that I think I've had to really digest. I think it is more. I always kind of laugh about how the Golden Globe splits these things up, but it is more of a comedy than it is to be taken like super seriously as a drama. And the the characters who are really good at what they do are the characters that breeze through things. Like it's the Latino community with Benicio del Toro. Their ability to respond to danger and a revel, an attack by police, something they got business taken care of, and they're out of there. No one even saw them. Meanwhile, it's the dumb white folks who are like trying to be revolutionaries. They don't even know what's going on. And they got their code words that don't work and everything. But it's a fun movie, and I think too that the way, like, okay, so there's a scene towards the end, with the chase scene where they're going over the hills and stuff. And even sitting here in my house, an intense, because I missed this in theaters, but an intense sequence, a very slow speed chase, but yet you feel the intensity as you can't see over those
Mm-hmm.
over those little hills, and you can't see what's coming next. And I was, with the pace of that, it was the closest thing I had to remember being a kid and like watching something like Jaws, where you knew something was happening, you can feel that sense of impending dread, but you just don't know when it's going to happen. And so I think it is very, I mean, I'd have never read Vineland, which is the short story it's based on, but uh, it brought to the screen a sense of scope that you don't often get, I feel like, with, I don't even know what to describe it, because I mean, this was not like a cheap movie either. This wasn't this was, we talked about, Sinners having a budget of 90 million. This had a budget of $130 million. Like, this is another like big budget. Like, Warner Brothers really gave a movie that is not like, Warner Brothers last year gave a lot of money to original films. Whether it was this, whether it was Weapons, whether it was, oh gosh, I'm going to forget some of the other big ones from last year. But Sinners, One Battle, Weapons, um,
And these
I mean, the
weren't
Minecraft
all,
movie.
not every, I was going to say not all of these were originals, but they also were pretty well rewarded at the box office in the past year. They had a long
Mhm.
string. They had a long stretch of movies. I can't remember what the it was. They were having big openings.
But the Um, I think someone else would have to do a more in-depth analysis of the story as it is, like the themes of that you have, because you have um Tiana Taylor's character and the African American experience and the African American woman's experience in this. I think that there's a lot of value in hearing what they would have to say about something like this. You have the Latino experience. You also have, and then you have the white guy's experience, the stoner white guy experience, which I'm not in either of those I'm in one of those character categories, but it's um, there's a lot of different themes and a lot of clashing in it, and so some people would have to analyze that. But I mean, from a dialogue standpoint too, it has me cracking up. Leo is just a buffoon. He's a stone buffoon, and so you're watching him kind of fall over himself. There were times I felt like maybe Leo's a little wasted on this character, or the character is wasted as Leo. But there's that. There's Sean Penn's character, who is this just crazy guy, but his desire to be in I can't remember what it was called, the Christmas Club,
Christmas Adventurers Club.
the Christmas Adventurers Club, and the use of Jim Downey in that. Jim Downey previously worked with PTA on There Will Be Blood, I believe. Um, you got some, like, there's definitely a very silly eye pointed at some of the uh, awful people of our society.
Oh, sure. And Leo was nominated for Best Actor in this movie as well, but
Mhm.
he's this isn't a knock to him. His character, I think he does a great job with his character, but the Leo character is not even like on the list of most memorable characters from the film, in my opinion.
Mm.
Perfidia is fascinating. Benicio del Toro's character is fun as hell. It's like all the people he runs into along the way are Champagne,
Mhm.
these are the people you walk away talking about from that movie. I really want to read the short story too. I think you talked about that too last time, Garrett.
Yeah,
Because
I
I'm
rented it.
fascinated. Oh, you did rent it?
I did rent it from the library, and it started. I only got through a few chapters before I wasn't able to kind of I realized I wasn't going to be able to finish it before this
Yeah.
episode. So I was like, I'll save it for later. It started
Yeah,
in 1984 in Reagan. Uh,
I want to know what it's like because I love a short story being turned into basically an epic. This is a big long tale. I wonder how much of it is. I don't know. I'm fascinated because it's set in present day. So, but the book is but the yeah, it's so I don't know how adapted works in that respect. But
David,
I do think it's really well written.
you'd mentioned either maybe it was you, Josh. One of you two mentioned that Leo's cat kind of character kind of fell off or something like that, and I felt like that with. And this is maybe correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I felt that way with Teyana Taylor's character. She was such a strong force of the movie for like the first half. And then I felt like she just vanished. And
Yeah.
I was much more interested in that story, but it felt like that story just kind of ended and I didn't feel like I had a pretty strong resolution to it. But what
No,
did you guys feel in
I
that
think I
regard?
agree with that.
No, I mean, and I think that's part of it is the movie transitions, and I think Paul Thomas Anderson has sort of said that there's sort of a whether it's conscious or subconscious aspect of what we're passing to our kids, and the movie sort of transitions off of being Beverly Hills' story and being her daughter's story. And then, kind of in addition to that, you have these hijinks of Leo just being, what's his name? Pat, Rocket Man, Ghetto, whatever you want to call him, just being frequently out of place, like just trying to catch up to the story, but never quite catching up to it. Um, and then a lot of it ends up resting on Willa. That's her name. Um, she's doesn't know what's going on. And I remember at the time when I was watching it, there's the point where her dad's like, take your device that you have to take. And she's like so over it because as far as she knows, this whole thing is just some made up conspiracy theory that her dad's had forever, that her crazy dad has. And then all of a sudden, Regina Hall shows up out of nowhere and says, "Oh yeah, that thing is real. And I need you to come with me right now." I was like, that could have been the beginning of a movie, which is just like, hey, the thing you've been told is actually real. And then they could have shown a bunch of stuff in backstory. That could have been the start. But it's sort of around the halfway point. But there's a lot of characters that, I kind of feel like Regina Hall is a character that I feel like they could have, like, there's more there, and they don't really have a ton. They don't really have a ton of time for, um, in a similar way to what you're talking about, Garrett.
Josh, I feel like you're the one who has seen most of these. David, I could be wrong. Maybe you've seen them equally as much. But do you feel like this is the right movie to have won with Begonia, Train Dreams, Frankenstein, and Hamnet?
Here's the thing. I mean, I want to say yes because I think it's totally deserving, but I think I think all those movies in their own way are probably deserving of this award. I think there's a part of me that's like, well, I want to know. I don't feel I can judge that without knowing the source material. You know what I mean? Like, was it a good adaptation? I don't know. I don't know what they were trying to adapt. I don't know if that comes into play. I don't know if they consider that.
I don't know if they do or not, because
they probably don't.
Most people probably didn't read what One Battle After Another is based on anyway, and it may not even be that good of an adaptation because, like, it has to expand on a lot. I mean, it could be an adaptation. It's an adaptation of what was there and then expands on it, which I guess could be a good sign. I think that because I've seen all of them except Begonia. I'm looking at it now, and Train Dreams is very good, and Hamnet is very good. And I've not seen Begonia. Frankenstein, I think it would have been different if Frankenstein had had a big theatrical release and a big push, even just the same kind of push that One Battle After Another had, where it just had trailers running forever. I still think One Battle wins, but I think it's a more competitive situation if Frankenstein kind of has a big moment where it's kind of like a real topic, because obviously that has a ton of big epic scale feel. That one has a ton of makeup and hair and interesting character performances and things like that. You could have had a more challenging thing there, but I still think that ultimately I'm looking at the rest of the list and I probably do give it to One Battle After Another, even though I've been on record saying it's only in my top 10 for the year.
Only in my top 10. Yeah, like that's about all right. Well, I think that'll do it for this episode of the show. Great movies. It was a great year in film. It usually is. I feel like all throughout every year, there's periods of time where people go, "Wow, there's nothing out this year," and then the end of the year hits, and you go, "Wow, look at all those movies that came." There were some good movies after all.
You can always look at the big franchise things and big directors and be like, I'm excited for this, but you never know. There's always going to be surprises. You never know. You can never predict what's going to come out and just totally blow you away.
Maybe if the studios would just stop releasing something every single weekend and let things live a life, that might help.
And stop buying each other.
Yeah,
would be.
also that. That'd
I'll
be
take
great.
that. Take that as well.
I will still shout out. What was it? Universal recently said that they will extend the theatrical window into 45 days. And then I believe in 2027 up to 6 or 7 weeks. So let's see more of that. Cautious optimism for Universal. So maybe the rest will do. Maybe Paramount, Warner Brothers Discovery Plus will figure it
Well,
out too
we're
one
at
day.
this point, we got Universal and Sony are still kind of the only non-bought or buying properties right now. So we'll have to
True.
see what happens with them in the future. But
You just wait till the government takes over Sony.
The government.
yeah,
No.
it'd be great. It'd be crazy if Japan came in and was like, "No, we're taking Sony back."
Another Sony hack. We can't live through that again. All right. Like I said, that'll do it for us. Go find us online at somanysequels.com. Subscribe to the show. You can get video on YouTube and on Spotify. You can get the podcast wherever else you get podcasts. So again, go check that out. somanysequels.com. Let us know what you think about Sinners and One Battle After Another and what else you've been watching this year. We love to hear from you guys and get your recommendations and all that good stuff. So follow us on Instagram at SoManySequelsPod, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.